Doc Slab Audio on music production and audio engineering. Welcome to Doc Slab Audio and our Insight series. I do believe this is the 29th video in our Insight series, and in this video we want to talk about the difference between hi-fi and lo-fi productions. This is a very complicated subject, so I'm going to try to simplify this because I get a lot of people ask me about my channel, and there is a lot of options on my channel and things you need to consider and have knowledge of to become a better producer. That doesn't necessarily mean that you need to go and do things exactly how things are laid out, because your production might not call for some things to be done in certain ways. And it's why I really point out about you having to work out your own workflows and your own opinions and trusting your own judgment, like I talked about in the last video. And this is a prime example of that area. So whenever we're talking about the difference between lo-fi and hi-fi productions, the simple concept here, it's not just in composition, it's not just in production, it's not just in artistic and performance abilities and how well you do those things and or engineering. It's a combination of all those things. And so whenever you're dealing with, say you start out and you're dealing with the production itself and the music, and then you get into you're dealing with the captures and how the captures are done and the performances, and then you're dealing with the engineering and how you go about that. There can be a big difference in those two areas and levels of that. In between there, you got lo-fi, hi-fi, and somewhere in the middle of that being a mindset and a target for what you're shooting for. So that sounds a little funny, but you'd be surprised. I get some people, and I got this guy and he's doing blues production, and he comes to me and we're talking about music, or we're talking about production, we're talking about the performances, we're talking about the engineering, and all those areas. He may not have to spend way so much time working in those areas because of the type of production it is. It can be a very lo-fi production or somewhere coming up a little bit, maybe even getting closer to the middle of the road, but not a hi-fi production, no doubt about it, where he's got to be that worried about any of those areas to have a pretty good production coming out sounding, even a radio-ready production. You know, and on the other end of that spectrum, I get somebody shows up and they're this pop people. They got doing this EDM thing, or this, you know, in-your-face pop production. It's radio-ready, top-of-the-line prop production. And it's like, it's a hi-fi production, bro. In every one of those areas, it better be right, bro. And you better be nitpicky beyond comprehension to make it come out sounding like that hi-fi radio-ready production. And or it could be somewhere in the middle in either one of those sides. They could be coming and saying, well, I'm kind of this rock pop kind of thing that's, it might be not, hi-fi and it's not lo-fi, but it's somewhere in the middle. And they've got to really get their mindset of how much time they're going to spend in any one of those areas, perfecting those areas, and the type of detail that they have to do, the work they have to do, and the level of work they have to do for it to become somewhere in the middle, not lo-fi, not really super hi-fi, but somewhere in the middle in all those areas, or any one of those areas, to have it come out sounding right. You get you to have those, it's like I've got a lo-fi reggae production that I'm not going to spend that much time on it, where if I got this hi-fi production, these people come up and they're like, it's hi-fi Banana Republic, and that might sound funny, but you'd be surprised that some of those people, it sounds more, it's like Banana Republic music, but they want hi-fi, bro, and that's what's getting pushed out. So you better be nitpicky about everything to have it come out sounding right. With that reggae guy, he's like, no, bro, you just sucked all the life out of my production. I wanted to sound like I'm out on the beach, bro. They were all having a doobie and hanging out and chilling out, and you sucked. It sounds like this, hi-fi production. You really have to get that in your head. And like we talked about in the last video, it's a judgment call of the artists, the producers, and the engineers together really being able to have that focus and that objective, and understanding that if you push it any too far in any one of those areas, you're really going to not do justice to that production. And it sounds funny, but it can be very true that I get some people and they'll be like, well, I'm trying to do this stuff, and I'm like, you're wasting way too much time in that production, bro. It's way more natural. It's way more folk. It's way more, lo-fi. And you're just killing it with all your producing and your engineering and your performances, where you just relax. It's too much. Or you get this other end hi-fi, and it's like you're like some kind of ghetto, reggae band sounding thing that's trying to do this hi-fi thing, bro. It's not going to work. You're overproducing what you're trying to do, or you need to really hone your skills in all these areas to get that hi-fi sound, and you got a lot of work to do to go there. And that has to be an objective from all areas and all ends, as producing those productions, really understanding the difference so that you don't overproduce or you don't underproduce when you're working towards your objective. It's a very simple thing. It's really hard to sit here and eloquate all different areas in one video, but the more you think about it and the more you immerse yourself in those type of productions that you're shooting for and really researching that, the better chance you're going to get there and not overproduce, not underproduce, or you can find yourself somewhere in the middle where you should be for those type of productions and what you're trying to do in that niche or in that genre or in that production style, or something you want to do that's your own unique thing. That it can be a huge immersion thing, and really getting to understand that, so that when you go into your production, you have an objective. It's going to be a lo-fi production, bro, or it's going to be a hi-fi production, or it's going to be somewhere in the middle that's a little rough but hi-fi essence to it, in certain areas. And you really have this objective set out so that you don't kill yourself in any one of the areas as an artist, a producer, an engineer, doing what you don't need to be doing, or what you really should be doing you're not focusing on, to get that happening for what you want to do. Because you'd be surprised. I've gotten people that they're lo-fi, and I'm like, you need to just tone it down, bro, and relax, and it's more earthy and natural. Or you're really hi-fi and you really need to hone your skills there, and it's a lot of work, bro. Or you're in the middle and you go, you need to focus in this area, but don't relax in that other stuff. It's okay. I mean, what does it sound like? You're trying to get that groove and that feel of what's going on there and mixing it up a little bit. It has to be really set in your head. And it's a lot of reason why I say immersion's a cool thing, because then you get immersed in some music that's really your objective, or something close that you're shooting for, so you can get a really good feel of what the drums sound like, what the keyboards sound like, the composition, the performances, the arrangement, the engineering, the producing in all areas. How much work's actually been put into that? How much are they laying back, or how much do they really grinding to get that, done to where it sounds that kind of production? It's a huge thing. You'd be surprised because it's something you really need to take into consideration and really formulate a good objective and a good opinion and a good judgment call on your end, whichever end you're working in, to know where you're going and what you're trying to do, and taking that into consideration as you're moving forward as a producer, as an artist, a performer, and an engineer. So peace, self-love. I certainly hope you take that consideration into consideration as you work through your productions, and I will see you in the next video.